Beautiful lady had plastic surgery to look ugly. Junia had always known she was beautiful. From an early age, her flawless skin, bright eyes, and graceful features drew attention wherever she went. People admired her not just for her looks, but for her lively spirit and infectious smile. It was a beauty that opened doors for her. Everywhere she went, people treated her with favor. Men lined up for her affection, but she turned them down one by one, always searching for something more. What she wanted wasn't love, it was wealth. Her dreams came closer to reality one fateful night at a concert. The music thumped through the hall as Junia danced with her best friend Catherine, the two of them laughing and swaying to the rhythm. It was there, among the flashing lights and vibrant energy, that Kelvin, a wealthy businessman known for his luxury lifestyle, first saw her. His eyes were immediately drawn to her radiant beauty. She was captivating, like a rare jewel among the crowd. Kelvin approached with confidence, his expensive suit and polished demeanor marking him as a man of means. He introduced himself with a smile, and Junia, already aware of his wealth and reputation, felt her heart race. He was rich, richer than any man who had ever approached her before. Without hesitation, Junia accepted when he asked her out, ignoring the small voice in her head reminding her of her fiancé waiting for her at home. As the night wore on, Catherine noticed the way Junia's eyes sparkled, not with love, but with desire for something much different. "Junia," Catherine whispered, trying to get her attention. "You have a fiancé. Don't do this. He loves you." But Junia was lost in her own thoughts, imagining the life she could have with Kelvin. Her fiancé had always been kind and loving, but he wasn't wealthy. Not like Kelvin. As far as Junia was concerned, this was her opportunity to finally leave behind the poverty of her childhood. That night, when she returned home, she called her fiancé and ended their engagement. He was heartbroken, confused, and begged her to tell him what had gone wrong. "What did I do, Junia?" His voice cracked with emotion. "We were about to get married. Why are you doing this?" But Junia had no answers for him. She was cold, distant. "It's over," she said, and with that, she hung up, severing the relationship with a finality that left him devastated. Junia wasn't heartless, but the lure of money and the lifestyle she had always dreamed of was too strong. And soon, she was living that dream with Kelvin. He showered her with gifts, luxury cars, a grand mansion, expensive clothes, and jewelry. Junia no longer needed to work. Kelvin made sure she had everything she desired. She quit her job as an accountant, abandoning her career without a second thought. Why bother with work when Kelvin's money could give her everything? Her best friend Catherine watched with growing concern. She had always been Junia's voice of reason, but lately, her words fell on deaf ears. "Junia, you're losing yourself," Catherine warned her one day. "It's not about love for you anymore. It's about money. Is this what you really want?" But Junia only laughed. "I'm happy, Catherine. I have everything I've ever wanted. I'm free now." Catherine didn't push further, but she knew deep down that this happiness was fragile. It was built on material things, and that kind of joy never lasted. Kelvin's obsession. In the beginning, Junia believed she had everything she could ever want. Kelvin was attentive, always praising her beauty and ensuring that she was adorned in the finest things. But gradually, something changed. Kelvin's admiration for her beauty became obsessive, and his compliments started to feel more like pressure. One morning, as she was walking to meet him for breakfast, Junia slipped and fell, hitting the floor hard. She groaned in pain, feeling blood on her lips and realizing that one of her front teeth had broken. She looked up, expecting Kelvin to rush over and comfort her. But when he saw her injury, his reaction stunned her. "Your teeth," he gasped, his eyes wide with panic. "If they don't fix that, you'll look ugly." He rushed her to the hospital, paying for the best dental treatment available, but never once did he ask how she was feeling or whether she was in pain. All he cared about was her appearance, and that realization hit Junia like a cold wave. The man she had married wasn't in love with her, he was in love with the way she looked. From that day on, Kelvin became even more controlling. He stopped taking her out in public, afraid that other men would look at her the way he once had. The final straw came at another concert, a mirror of the night they had first met. Junia noticed how the men around her stared, just as Kelvin had all those months ago. One of them even asked to hold her hand, his voice filled with awe. Kelvin, furious, grabbed her arm and dragged her out of the concert hall. "You're staying indoors from now on," he told her when they got home. "I don't want anyone else looking at you. You belong to me." Junia protested, but Kelvin was insistent. He promised to give her anything she wanted as long as she stayed hidden from the world. At first, Junia accepted. She still had the luxury, the money, but slowly, the walls began to close in on her. Her once beautiful mansion felt like a prison. And then came the sickness. One day, Junia fell ill, weak and bedridden. Instead of comforting her, Kelvin hovered over her with frustration. "Sickness will make you look ugly," he muttered, barely looking at her. When she asked him to stay with her, he received a call from his sister saying their mother was ill. Without a second thought, he left Junia to go to his mother's side, leaving her alone to deal with her pain. As she lay in bed, memories of her ex-fiancé flooded back to her. He had loved her for who she was, not what she looked like. She had traded that love for money and beauty, and now, both felt meaningless. Determined to take control of her life, Junia went to a nearby clinic where she learned that her illness was due to pregnancy. She was carrying Kelvin's child, but instead of joy, she felt trapped. She knew she couldn't stay with him any longer. Kelvin didn't care about her or the child, he cared only about her appearance. The final escape. Desperate to free herself from Kelvin's obsessive hold, Junia devised a plan. She withdrew a large sum of money from his account, took her car, and fled to another state. But even in her new life, she feared that Kelvin would come looking for her. The only way to truly escape him, she realized, was to make sure he wouldn't want her anymore. That's when she made the boldest decision of her life. She sought out a plastic surgeon and asked for a procedure to make her face deliberately ugly. The surgeon was shocked by her request, but Junia insisted. This was the only way Kelvin would leave her alone. When the surgery was done, Junia barely recognized herself in the mirror. Her once perfect features were now distorted, and she knew she no longer held the beauty that had once trapped her. She was free. To test her theory, Junia returned to the mansion one last time. She knocked on the door, and when Kelvin opened it, he fell to his knees in shock. "Why would you do this to yourself?" he cried, staring at her in horror. "You've ruined everything." "I'm carrying your child," Junia told him, her voice steady, but Kelvin's eyes, once filled with adoration, were now filled with disgust. "I can't live with you like this," he said coldly. In that moment, Junia felt a strange sense of relief. The man who had once controlled her was now powerless over her. She walked away, knowing that she had regained her freedom, and for the first time in her life, she felt truly beautiful. She had enough money to take care of herself and her child, and she no longer needed to live by anyone else's standards. Junia would raise her child on her own terms, far from the man who had valued her only for what she looked like. And in her heart, she knew she had made the right choice. The end.